I got 60 bucks. Let's see if we can turn this trash in the alley into $300 before the sun goes down. The sun sets at 8:02 tonight, so we need to get started quickly. And luckily, since it's moving season in Chicago, I found this desk in an alley only a few blocks from home. It's a pretty large and sturdy desk that has a ton of potential. Let's take it home. Alright, I just got back with the desk. Just taking a closer look at the damage here, it's actually in pretty good shape besides a few scratches and dings. We'll have to sand the entire desk down just to help the new paint stick, and then we'll work on small details like new knobs and decals to really make this piece unique and stand out. I've been wanting to do a sports themed flip for a while, and I think that this will be perfect for that. If you have any guesses for what team you think I'm going for, leave it in the comments, and let's get started. But first, I need to call up a decal store to get started on some custom vinyl stickers for later. And right after I get off the phone, our next step is to get started sanding. And since we're just painting the whole thing, we just have to rough up the surface enough to help the new paint stick. Since there aren't too many scratches, I just use a 220 grit to scuff up the old finish. If your piece has deeper scratches, or if you're staining, I recommend that you start with a 120 grit to remove the scratches, and then work your way up to a 220 grit to get a smooth finish. When sanding, be extra careful on the edges of the table. The edges sand a lot faster than the middle, and you don't want to sand down too far. Also, make sure to apply even pressure when sanding. But make sure not to press down too hard, you want the sander to do the work. I've seen a lot of comments asking how much they would need to start flipping furniture. And my answer is, for about $150, you can get a cheap electric sander, some thrift store furniture, paint, and a few other miscellaneous things like a screwdriver. And the best part is that after 1 or 2 flips, you'll likely make back that investment and you can actually start to profit. If you have any other questions, make sure to leave a comment and I'll try to answer it in my next video. I use my circular sander on the top, and then I use my smaller sander on the more detailed parts of the desk. I use the smaller sander on the base and the drawer because the circular sander is much stronger, and on uneven surfaces it could potentially damage the wood. If you don't want to invest in 2 sanders, you just have to be extra careful with your circular sander, or you could even hand sand the more delicate parts. After everything is all sanded, let's give the desk a good wipe down to get off all the dust. Make sure to remove as much dust as possible because any dust left over can prevent the paint from sticking as well. While we let that dry, let's take a look at the new drawer knobs that I picked up. And if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, it helps a ton. Thanks! Since it's a sports themed flip, I wanted to add some unique baseball knobs for the drawer. Now let's work on fixing this bottom rail that fell off. I simply use a screwdriver, and with a new screw, I attach it back to the base. And before we paint, let's tape off the parts that we don't want to get paint on. I always recommend taping off any moving parts because paint can make those moving parts sticky and not move as well afterwards. Now we need to get started painting. This is our final look at the desk before the new paint. I apply 1 coat of gray bonding primer to the entire desk, and I thin it slightly with water so that it sprays better. If you also thin your paint with water, make sure to do thin coats so that your paint doesn't drip. Always use a primer to get a better finish, and especially use a primer if you're painting on bare wood. It's pretty cheap and doesn't take too much extra work, and your end result will turn out much better. While we let that primer dry, let's talk about sales. I've seen a ton of comments asking if my previous flips have sold yet, and for what price, so let's break it down. And my new plan is in each long form content video like this, if something's sold, I'll give an update while the paint is drying. In episode 1, we did this cart, and I decided to actually keep it so we didn't profit anything, but it's still sitting in my living room. In episode 2, we worked on this coffee table, and I wanted to get $250 for it, but the green was a bit brighter than I expected, and I eventually sold it for $150. Episode 3, I refinished this oak dresser. I wanted $350 for it, which I think was a bit of a stretch because of the brush marks. People really didn't like those brush marks, but I did eventually sell it for $150. And after episode 3, I got a paint sprayer because of the brush marks, and everything changed completely after that. In episode 4, we changed this desk into nightstands, and I wanted $225, and I found a buyer for $200 in under a week. Episode 5 was my first one working with this new green, and it sold in under a day for $150. And I think I actually underpriced it because it sold so fast, I probably could have gotten around $200, maybe $250. And we have 2 more updates to go. In episode 6, I did this green dresser. I wanted $375 for it, and I actually got $375 in about a week. Finally, in episode 7, I refinished these nightstands, and I wanted $275 for them, and I did get $275 in about 3 days after listing. I think the biggest takeaway is right after I got a paint sprayer, I was able to price things significantly higher, and things sold much faster. And I've also learned not to undervalue things, because if you overvalue them, you can just mark the price down slightly, and eventually you'll find a buyer. Now let's get back to this week's flip. And once it's dry, I apply a coat of satin green paint. I recommend applying 2 thin coats instead of 1 thick one for a smoother looking finish. Make sure to wear a mask if you're spray painting. You don't want to breathe in paint if you can avoid it. Spraying on the top color is always so much fun. It's great to see the piece actually start to come together. If you're using a paint sprayer, make sure to occasionally wipe the tip with a damp rag so that the spray comes out more evenly. About an hour after my first coat of green, I apply another to cover up any missed spots and get a deeper overall green color. Don't skip a second coat. It'll help you get a smoother finish and you'll get a much deeper top color. Next, I add the new knobs to the drawer and I work on adding some decals to the desk. I think we should still be able to finish on time, but while we let that paint fully dry, let's work on adding the details. And while the paint was drying, I ran to the store and picked up our custom decals. When applying decals, make sure to take your time. When I ordered mine, it came with a plastic tool to remove bubbles. If yours doesn't, I would definitely pick one up. Just a reminder, this is what the desk looked like before, and then after. I think it turned out great. I'm a huge Cubs fan, and I'm sure another huge Cubs fan will enjoy this unique piece in their home. Subscribe and like this video so you don't miss next week's flip.